This is my 1968 Buick LeSabre. What did you just say? Oh yeah, it is really beautiful. Thank you. It has T800 on the license plate, so here on Ford, I'm going to call it the LeSabrenator. Seems right. I've got a couple pesky, persistent issues I got to work through over the next couple days. It gets about 1 filter per mile, which seems slightly aggressive on the filter edge. I'm going to have to address that. So that includes dropping the fuel tank and cleaning that. I'll show you how to do that for about 20 bucks. Replace the fuel sending unit, the filters, even rebuild the Rochester Quadrajet. Now I've got an overheating issue, got to dig into that, and then go figure, the brakes don't work for the second time. Got a leak somewhere. I know by now you're just sitting right on the edge of your seat with excitement. So hang on, let's get started. I'm Derek. Welcome to Vice Grip Garage. Now I need the keys for this, don't I? I just don't like them things. First things third, before we get this up in the air, let me show you why I'm flushing this fuel tank. You can tell I like this car. See how I greased on them hinges? She just flies right up. So this filter is actually only a couple days old and maybe has 15 minutes of runtime on it and no mileage really. Once I backed it off the trailer, it was plugged, so I replaced this one, and this is literally just from backing it in and out of the shop a couple times and moving it around the yard while we were filming the interior cleaning, which turned out fantastic, by the way. But I think what's happening is, remember, the fuel tank was empty when we got this. It was just bone dry. So now that fuel's been sitting in there sloshing around. I think it's really eating a lot of that stuff up and it's starting to get loose and come forward. Hopefully this fuel filter is catching most of it, but I have a feeling that fuel pump is probably just full of junk as well. It would be advantageous for a feller to maybe replace that. And guy got to thinking, it's leaking oil anyway, right where that pump later mounts up against the block. I get a pesky little drip there, and I got plenty of stuff that leaks around here, but that's just bothering me on a Buick. So we'll see if the Hardmore store has a pump later. We might just replace on that anyway, since the guy's arms are going to be down in there. But I think first, let's go ahead and get this boat up in the air here, get that fuel tank dropped. The sooner we can get our concoction in there and start randomly agitating that, the better. And we'll want that to sit as long as possible. So that'll actually be the last thing we do, is put the tank back up in it, and we'll get everything else done while that's kind of cooking. Small booger fry and a bottle of ski. Bring it on out to my baby and me. I don't like dropping fuel tanks, especially when there's 74 gallons of fuel in there. They get heavy. So this is that big old hog of a tank here. My brain actually fired on 8 cylinders for just a brief second last night, and I soaked these down before I left, so maybe they'll come off easy. Nope, gonna snap both. But basically that's it. GMs, these bands will just fold down. We have a fuel out, return line, fuel sending, and then this is the ground for the fuel sending unit. So basically just disco this stuff here, snap them bolts off. Then I think what I'll do is just, this is my drip tray slash tool tray. I could slide this down. And if she's real heavy, I'll just let her settle down right here, and then I can lower my lift down a little bit more and slide her off right here pretty easily. Hopefully this shouldn't be too big of a battle. Usually it's just trying to fight the filler necks. You kind of got to get her down and forward, then she'll settle down. I don't know how much fuel is in here because the fuel gauge doesn't work, which is one of the main reasons I'm replacing the fuel sending unit. But I'm going to show you how to test those so you know for sure if it's the fuel sending unit or, unfortunately, the gauge in the old digital readout center. The bolts on these hangers here could be a little bit tricky to find for some of these old Buicks and even the Chevrolets. So what a guy wants to do is just be really delicate taking these out. You should take a ratchet just a little bit at a time and grease them up. So I'm going to do the right thing and just take my Milwaukee with a fresh battery and put it on world twister mode. She's hot. I got one loose, I got one probably about 3.72 millimeters left on the thread there. Now we can gauge on how much fuel we've got. Oh, 3/4 tank, which is unfortunate. So I'm gonna disconnect the front, and basically what we're gonna have to do is just shoot that nut off and run and just let her do its thing. Well, I got all this disconnected up here, and she's plumb full, shooting gas out already, so I put a vacuum cap on there to hopefully keep the spillage down about 13.5%. But I think we're ready to go ahead and take the other nut off and just let this thing smash on the ground and leak. Here we go. Well, I did decide to throw a little tether on here. Maybe we could prevent it from just skiing off and hitting the ground. Probably not. Here we go. Where's my sock at? There it is. Here we go again. Easy. Where did that go? Gone forever. All right. Hips. Okay. Okay. Hips. Easy now. Hips. Oh. Hips. Ah. Easy, girl. Come on now. Get back here. Hip. Ah. It's gonna be okay. Come on now. Well, that's a very simple process. Highly recommend doing it by yourself. Trunk floor looks fantastic. Wow. You know, there was just a small chance of something just earth-shattering happening when we lowered this fuel tank down. And I didn't want to jinx it, so I didn't even say anything. Quite honestly, didn't have my hopes very high, but it just happened. So here's a toast and celebration. Captain's log. Put Diet Coke on the shopping list. Do you see it? Do you see it yet? Are you looking? Can you see in there? Look right there. That's right. We've got a build sheet, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to scooch this out, and we'll be able to hopefully clean that off and get the deets on the old LeSabrenator here. Pretty excited. Yep. Come on now, you old heifer. Yes. Yep. Yeah. Yes. Ooh. We're talking 15 gallons, definitely 15. There's the build sheet. Hide your eyes. All be dipped. Power brakes. Well, I knew that. This tank is really clean. Well, on the outside. Welcome to Derek's non-fictional storytelling time. This is going to interest all of you, except for the 3 of you that are half asleep and 2 of you that are going to the fridge. Don't blame you. Got to stay hydrated. Talked to the previous owner's son of this car, my good friend, very good friend, Roger. And I had always assumed that his dad, because they ordered this car, picked the high performance engine and the transmission and a couple of the other features. But it turns out that he owned a trucking company and really didn't care about cars, which I just assumed because Roger is such a hot rodder, and I think at one point in time he had over 200. Anyway, so what ended up happening, I guess, is they just went to the dealership and whatever the sales guy was just started clicking boxes and ordered up this car. And according to Roger, his dad really wouldn't have cared or said, hey, yay or nay on any of the options. So it's kind of neat how that always unfolds. In this case, some sales guy basically probably built a LeSabre how he would want it. As far as build sheets go, this one is probably a B as far as ones you find on top of the tank. Some of the build sheets you see out there are just in really great shape, and those are typically the ones found inside the car, like inside the door cards. Just kind of depends on the plant that they came through, but starting to see some more info on this one. Just want to go through this really quick with you guys. We won't go through every single detail, but this is a part that excites me about old cars, is the history on them. Came out of the Kansas City plant, came up by truck, ordered and delivered right to Scotland, South Dakota, which is correct. And then the options here had the shoulder harnesses, which is the belts up on the roof, tinted glass, auto trunk release. That's the red button in the glove box, runs on vacuum. Learned something here, B32, because I've never seen this option, carpet savers. And what that is, I thought that Roger's parents had added this. That's this here. And it did save the carpet. So when the young ladies are dragging their high heels in and out and the fellers their boots, those save on the carpet. Extra seat padding. This is also something I learned. B84 body side molding. Both Roger and myself thought this was aftermarkets, but it turns out it was a factory option. There was a black rubber molding. You can see the mark down the body line. And we had thought that his father had added this. And in fact, that came right off the assembly plant. I'll be dipped. Did not know that. Door guards, let's see. Wheel open moldings, that's the stainless up over the wheels there. Air conditioning, soft roof, that's the vinyl. Remote rear view mirror, I'll be. Power brakes, of course. There's the L77, the all-important L77 and M40, and that's going to be the high compression 350. You get the badge, the 400 badge, then you get the super turbine 400 transmission. Tilt wheel, power steering, deluxe wheel covers, which I have. I just need to clean them up. Front fender molding, that's just, these used to be called portholes, depending if you had a Super or a Special or a Century or a Roadmaster or whatever. But now they're fake. I guess they've always been fake. The 50s Buicks, some of them you can stick your fingers in, but they actually dead end, those portholes. They're not functional in any way. And then radio man antenna. I thought that was automatic. I don't know if that means manual. I'm not familiar with the U63, if anybody has any info on that. And then the speed alert is really cool. It's a dial you turn, and when you hit that speed alert, it makes a buzzing noise. Really neat. So this is a little bit soft up here, so I'm gonna set this out and let it dry up, and then I'm not quite sure if I like it enough to send it out to a specialist that can clean this up, or if I just kind of throw it on the bench. What I'll probably end up doing is putting it in a frame or something and keeping it with the car. It's very rare these days that you actually find the build sheet, so that's a really cool surprise. I'm going to finish cleaning this up, just vacuum it off. I'm going to leave this in for the time being, because what I'm going to do is actually take the fuel out of here and put it into my fuel tank. This is just the gas that I use for revivals and the little cans that I throw through carbs and stuff like that. Got her cleaned up just a little bit. As soon as I get it empty, then I'll really go to town cleaning it, but it gets slightly dangerous with fuel in there. Speaking of danger, this pump in capital letters says do not use for fuel, combustible. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. And basically what I'm doing is just succillating it out here. I'm going to drop it into that tank there. Whoop, we got a leak. Turn it back on. Getting down towards the end here, and I shut the pump off because it's getting really bad. And normally I put a filter in line, but I knew that it would clog up. So I'm going to stop here so I don't ruin this Ching Chang Paolo main pump. Someone gave that to me. Got a save on it. By the way, this holds 14 gallons, and as of right now, it is plumb full. And there's still about a gallon and a half in there. So dare I say, the old arm meter was just spot on. I'm going to put a big funnel in here, and what I'm thinking, but it won't happen, is I'm going to gently just pour out the remainder into that. Or I guess if I was smart enough, I'd try to find some other gas jug somewhere and pour out the remainder of it, because I would suspect that whatever is left in here is going to be really, really rotten. Guy's gonna run this fuel filter funnel, so whatever ends up in there, I'll just pour in the wife's car. Get ready to laugh at me, because this is not gonna go well. Yep. Come on now. Well, I can hear the sediment. The old valve is stopping it. I thought it wouldn't hold. Oh, el numero dos, I see the problem. And 3, this is not the pickup tube I ordered. Hello there. Oh. That explains why we're lacking filtration. It looks like brown gravy. Perfect. Seen worse. So the sock fell off. Used to sit like that. And there's what we got in here. And I think that would probably explain our issue. And the sediment looks really thick. This tank is going to take a lot of work if we're even able to save this thing. It's got a nice baffle here, you know, because the HPs. So when you get on the throttle, it keeps gas in this section here, so this doesn't just suck up air. But man, that thing is... I might have to contemplate just buying a tank. Well, guys, back. 21 minutes, 53 seconds later. I emptied this out into my EPA-approved holding tank. That's outside, undisclosed location. And I got to looking really close with a flashlight in here, and it's heavily pitted. I mean, this tank is just rough. So no matter how much I clean this, it is gonna just flash rust and continue to degrade. There are some fuel tank lining systems out there, and they are effective, but with the tank this big, by the time I cover the inside of this tank, I could have just bought a new tank, which is 80 bucks. So I think that's the route I'm gonna go, even though it's gonna hold me up a couple days. But my plan is, while I'm waiting for the new fuel tank, I'm gonna go ahead and just cobble in a couple patches in the trunk. Since the tank is out, that's a good time to be cutting and welding. Not perfect, not factory patch pans, just little patches. Keep the moisture and snow and stuff from coming in there. But I am gonna still also show you what I would normally use to flush a tank. And I believe I did this on the 65 C10 I call Lawsuit. It was a rat rod build, part 1 or 2. We successfully flushed that tank, put it back in the truck. Let me grab those materials and I'll show you. Well, I'm back again after being back previously the last backer. I can't find these products. I know I bought them. They'll turn up 5 months. Anyway, it's really simple. A couple small jugs of CLR, Walmart. A couple gallon jugs of white vinegar, Walmart. And then, based on the size of this tank, 3 to 4 bags of marbles, aisle 11, Walmart, halfway down right-hand side. Dump all of that in here and just go to shaking. My plan was just to throw it in the back of the truck because in the next couple days I'll drive a couple 100 miles just getting to the shop and back. And that'll sluice her around pretty good. If you don't want to use marbles or go into public like me, you can also just use diesel fuel, any other solvent or cleanser, and just throw some nuts and bolts in here. Give her a good shake. Those sharp edges will knock a lot of this loose. The only downside to nuts and bolts and things like that is pretty expensive. And sometimes they get trapped in here with tanks with baffles and things like that. They get really tricky to get back out. So I like marbles because they roll easy. When you flip this over, they usually come to pouring out. I'm gonna walk up to the top of the hill where I get some cell service, order a tank, make sure my fuel sending unit is on the way, and then I guess we're gonna get started on this trunk here pretty soon. Okay. Fuel tank is ordered. Week, 2 weeks, I don't know. On top of that, the fuel sending unit I ordered before I even started is now officially lost by the USPS. So thought about ordering another one, but oofda, they're like $129. So we're just gonna kill some time and wait. I've started in on the trunk here. I got the sound deadening out and the trunk mat. This came out in one piece other than, I thought there was a rip somewhere, but maybe not. which is great. If you get a car south of the Rust Belt, these usually get so sticky, they just get stuck to the floor and they're almost impossible to get off. You end up scraping them out with paint scrapers and stuff like that, but I'll be able just to throw that one in. And this is in really good shape, and if I line them up correctly, you won't even see that. So that's pretty good. My goal here is just to patch it up just enough. You know, can a guy make this to where you could throw some cassette tapes and boots back here, drive down the highway when it's raining, and this just won't be flooded? So that's the goal. I mean, obviously this isn't a restoration. We've got rust and dents and stuff all over the place. So I've identified 4 areas I need to patch up. Right here on both sides, there, and then of course behind the wheel wells there. And you can see this weird shape, and it's the same on both sides. And what that is there's actually a mount that holds the bottom of the quarter up into the trunk pan and then down into this body mount. But there's about a 1/4 inch gap between what used to be here as a mount and the trunk floor. And this right here is actually the perimeter of that mount. So mud and dirt and sand and everything gets up in there, and that just completely rots out. Putting a cover over this isn't technically correct because the body mount isn't really doing anything at that point, but we've got some more back here and there's plenty up there. So I'm just gonna quickly just plop a plate in all these little holes, and then we'll try to patch up the quarter panels down in there as well. Throw some seam sealer in here and that should be good. I already started wire wheeling over here. This is a really tightly wound cut brush, and I mean tighter than my wallet. And I'm just in here digging, and what's kind of neat is you can actually see the original trunk splatter paint in here once I get this surface rust off. But I'm gonna continue to do this. It's a messy job, and then we'll put the rust converter on it. And then I'm gonna spray this undercoat over top of that. But I gotta make sure I get this nice and clean and dry. You don't wanna spray this with high humidity, or if you think there's any chance there's any moisture in here, because that's such a nice thick barrier. You can actually trap moisture between that product and your metal, and then it'll just continue to rust. So now's a good time for me to get all this down clean, nice and dry. Psst, get that done, and then we'll just throw the original mats back in, and then I'm pretty much going to call that good for the trunk. And hopefully by the time we get this whole project done, I'll have the tank back and the sending unit. Next, I suppose I'll move on to the fuel make it happener, but I'll be back with you in a bit. I gotta get dirty. I got updates, making some progress. I used the Lincoln Plasma 20 and just kind of a lot faster and safer than getting that death wheel in there. Think I'm about ready to start making some patch panels. Just took some cardboard here, laid her in, eyeballed her, hit her with the old razor knife, and then just, you know, flip her over. Beetle boop, 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 boop. I got updates. All the patch panels are in. That one pretty smooth, no complaints. Did heat on her and bend them into the factory depressions here a little bit. Not that that really matters. And I also welded a majority of this left-handed. Great time to practice welding left-handed and uphill and things like that when you're doing inside patch panels like trunks, wheelhouses, floors, because you know, no one really sees them. Gonna hit them with the old Flapilator retina burners, bring them down just a little bit. And then I was digging through the aerosol arsenal and I did find this Duplicolor trunk paint. This is like that original Spider stuff. And I think I had actually picked this up for the Chevelle, but I went a different route there. And lo and behold, I'll be dipped. This was originally black with the green Spider, but that's okay. So I'm gonna change her up, actually use this up top, and then we'll put the rubber undercoating underneath, you know. But first, I'm gonna flap this down, get the seam sealer all through here, all the way around so she don't leak, and then we'll put that rust converter on it. Once that dries, come back and hit it with that. All right, got her all finished up here and it looks pretty decent, not gonna lie, not bad at all. And then a guy went ahead and shot some foam over here on the sides, you know, that way this holds in the moisture and rust faster, but she'll be watertight. I got a holder inner plate 916 down there. Once it dries, I'll take that off and smooth her out. And this side didn't have too many holes, just a couple there I'll clean up in a minute. And if you're wondering why I'm so fixated on keeping this watertight, is maybe in the future this is a power tour car, I'm not sure. But we did find out from driving Rocky that wet luggage really is not fun on the road, especially with kids. We basically, well, at least for me, I had to wear the same thing pretty much every day because everything was just always wet and you name it. So at least this way, any cargo back here is going to stay nice and dry. Gonna throw the original mats and sound deadening back in, and then we'll get this car up in the air, and I gotta do the underside of the topper side now. Yep, yep, If a guy doesn't do this now, I'm just gonna kick myself in the tail down the road. So I'm just gonna blow this off with some air, and then it's gonna be a nasty job, but get a wire brush, brush a lot of this down. Kinda neat, that's where the build sheet must have been sitting where it's shiny black. Also, leaking wheel cylinder, so that's going to be our brake issue. That one doesn't look bad, but we'll probably just end up replacing both wheel cylinders, I would imagine. But anywho, get in here and get this going and get the rust converter down, and then we'll put that rubber undercoating, and then also where the patches went in on both sides. We want to make sure that I get that covered. Otherwise, that'll just start rusting pretty quick as well. What kind of creature house is that? Spider? Probably. The LeSabre is looking mighty fresh. She's a going to town rig. Good news is the fuel tank showed up. Still waiting on the sending unit. Somewhere lost in the mail. Let's get this back down, pop the fuel, make it happen or off, and we'll get to rebuilding on that. In my opinion, these Quadrajets are actually really good carburetors. They get more of a bad rap than they deserve. They're really reliable. They're great in cold weather, cold starts, and they do awesome off-road. And in fact, they really did beat Edelbrock for quite some time until they came out with like the AVS and things like that. These you can hit bumps, get on nice inclines, and didn't really seem to bother them. The one big ailment they had was the primary or secondary wells can start leaking, and that's going to give you hard start issues or flooding, but they're fairly easy to tune. Similar to the Edelbrock, you can pull the top off, change metering rods, jets, springs, accelerator pump relatively easily. So once I pull this off, we'll actually be able to tell really quickly if these wells are leaking just by looking into the intake here. And that is a yes. Certainly is. I'll get you in here, show you how easy it is to tell. So basically, leaking wells, what that does is when the car is parked, it's weeping or dripping fuel right into the intake. So the next time you go to fire up the old rig, she's got an excess of gas in there. So sometimes you got to hold the throttle or pump it, so hard starting. In severe cases, even when you're idling, it's dripping fuel in, and that causes loading up, smoking black smoke, all of that stuff. Being this one sat for 26 years, zero surprise that these are leaking. But a couple of easy ways to tell. The bottom of your fuel make it happener should not be soaked in fuel like that. And then if you look into the intake, in this case, we can actually see raw fuel, especially on this side, both primary and secondary, sitting in the intake. So definitely leaking, but the good news is it's a really super easy fix. So I'm gonna pop the top off this, see how bad it looks on the inside. Well, this is in terrible shape, and I guess this is a good example of why I say they're reliable. There is a tremendous amount. I don't even know how this was working, to be honest. Secondary metering rods completely varnished and gummed up. Primaries have a bunch of stuff on them. Power piston's completely plugged. Power piston spring is stuck in it. Surprisingly, the pump discharge ball did come out. Usually those get stuck. But you could see I didn't dump any fuel out. So normally this would have fuel, up to here. But the reason it doesn't is it's leaking out of those wells. So let me get the bottom plate off. We'll flip this over and I'll show you what I'm talking about there. This needs a really deep cleaning. I dumped the fuel out so you can get a better look at the sediment in here. It's pretty incredible. So even though the filters, we've got a filter here, we've got a filter before the pump, plus we have the pump diaphragm, that just shows you how quickly you can get a bunch of junk in here. Actually, I guess I could just show you right here. These are the primary wells, these right here. And then the secondaries are back here. And that's what's leaking. You can see how moist they are. So when this is right side up, these just continue to drip fuel down into the intake, and that's what's causing that issue there. Well, to make a long story medium, the guy is just all over the place right now. I'm trying to do this and work on independence and build a big block. And I didn't have the time to sit down and rebuild this time. So what I did was actually drop this off at the carburetor shop in Forest Lake, Minnesota. I've been using those guys for a couple of years now, and they do fantastic work. This thing looks literally brand new. I'm mind-boggled right now. And they also let me know this morning, by the way, if you call and mention Vice Grip Garage or use the code ViceGrip on their website, you'll get 15% off and free shipping on carburetors and carburetor accessories. That's a good deal. This is not an ad, and I don't make a single penny. Just trying to pass on some savings to you fellers. They're good folks, local small business. Now all I got to do is just snip this back on, and we're making some headway finally. Wonder what Leanne Rhymes is doing. You don't hear anything anymore. Well, there goes that for life. It just shot out of here like a cannon. Dang it. Never find one of those. Everything's rigged back up in here again. Did lose a little clip or cotter pin, cotter key, keyway, holder on her, keep it on her, whatever it is. Off of the old choke lever thingy-majigger over there. So I'll pretend that I'm gonna look for one of those, but I never will. Everything else looks good. So now we can get her up in the air, and let's get the fuel pump, make it happen or off, replace that really quick. And then we're gonna back blow these fuel lines, see if we can clean that up too. Whoop, whoop. It's gonna sound good. So this pump is still operating, but I'm in here fixing this oil leak anyway. And we know the pump's probably gonna be full of junk. Actually, it unquestionably is. So we might as well just replace on her while we're in here, right? They're pretty affordable. Yep, gasket is just shot. Well, that's snipped in. Everything seemed to work okay. Put a little bit of gasket shellac on that paper gasket just to hold her in place. I think I am gonna put another filter tray back in here before she swings down and plugs in. But before I do that, I think I'm gonna take a can of carb cleaner and just empty the entire thing into here. And then I'm gonna take 740 foot-pounds of air and just, and we'll try to blow back and see if we get any crud out. Yep, okay. Where am I at? Over here. Get in there now and just feed. It's coming right back in my eyes. Feed again. It's still just coming right back on me. Maybe I should move. How about now? Wow, what in the devil? Let's go this way. Way back here in the rear, you know. Can I go that way? No. Well, help me understand. Can we go this way again? You're going downhill. Come on now. No. Well, you're just gonna get air treatment, I guess, right away. Tank is set to tornado mode. Safety squits engaged. Oh, something came out. Oh, we had blockage. I'll be dipped. I could see it laying on the ground. Big chunk of rust. Are you sure? Yeah, rust. Now let's try it. Oh yeah, see? Still not coming out the back. Maybe we'll get some air on her now. Here we go. This seems to be doing the trick. Another treatment. I think I might let this treatment sit, soak a little bit, you know, and then come back every Wednesday. It's recommended. Well, you fellers have been farting around on the couch there. I finished cleaning her out and got her plugged back in with the filter. Glad I checked. We would have had a fuel supply issue immediately. Well, I think we can, no, we can bring it down. We got to put a gas tank in still. Great. Onto the fuel tank. There it went. Non-returnable special order item. You're supposed to sign for them and inspect on them. So I did the right thing, signed for it, threw it against the wall, waited till the very last minute until I was installing it, then opened it out of the box and realized this is not even remotely close. It's not even in the same shape. It's not, no, wrong. So that's good. I think this is to like a Le Mans or a Chevelle or something like that. Definitely not a LeSabre. So a guy rolled some ideas around in the knowledge bowl up here, and I think I got just the thing to get this out of the shop so I could scooch over the Chevelle and get to work. Yeah, that ought to work just fine. I mean, technically, she's a boat. The one thing I got wrong here is you want to use yellow. That's just a warning for the folks behind you that you're running a race unit here. Got her strapped up, tensioned in, even threw a pre-filter to the filter, mainly because I didn't have a barrel connector. Plugged off the return. That's going to make it flood probably or blow the needle out, but this should be enough anyway. I got her full. There's 4 gallons in there. The other gallon went into my armpits when I was making that connection. It's thick. Anyway, that'll let me scooch her out of here and move it around probably 16 times. So I can hopefully get the Chevelle on the lift, and maybe this will end up over there. Probably not, it's outside. Well, I gotta switch gears in the shop here. I think I'm gonna shut her down on this for now. Still plenty to do on it coming soon. Brakes, overheating issue. And if you can help me find a tank and the proper sending unit, I'd certainly appreciate it. Put an interwebs link thing in the comments down there. Your standard Google machine query is not gonna cut it, fellers. That's how I ended up with this thing. It said it fit. It doesn't. Thanks guys for watching, appreciate it very much. If there's anything else you'd like to see on this Buick in the next episode, bleep bloop it. I'll see what we can do. See you next time.